So last time I introduced the CEO and co-founder of REGENT was a year ago here at CoMotion Miami. And they've been really busy over the past few months. REGENT is getting ready to revolutionize coastal travel with their electric sea glider, which you can see a prototype outside. They have signed up partnerships with Hawaiian Airlines, Japan Airlines Innovation Fund, and Siemens. And they also recently unveiled the full mock-up of their sea glider and completed a test flight in Rhode Island. So it's my pleasure to introduce now Billy Thalheimer, CEO of REGENT.
Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Billy Thalheimer, co-founder and CEO at REGENT. REGENT's been really busy since last year building a nexus in Miami and in southern Florida. So even before I get into this, I just wanted to thank a few people, Chairman Gilbert, Mayor Cava, Mayor Suarez, Secretary DeBella, Heidi Webb from Port Miami here, Enterprise Florida, of course, John Rossan for putting this all together. We've had some amazing help as we've brought our new coastal transportation system to market. So sort of looking back to last year, where were we? It is super exciting to be back in Miami, back at CoMotion. Last year, we did the unveiling of our quarter-scale Sea Glider prototype here. Too much fanfare. And also, this conference actually helped us on the commercial BD side. We signed a deal here with an operator from New Zealand, Ocean Flyer, one of the largest transportation deals in New Zealand history, ordering a fleet of Sea Gliders for New Zealand. So that was super exciting, and we're doing even more this year. For those of you who don't know about REGENT, REGENT builds Sea Gliders. Sea Gliders are all-electric hybrids of boats and planes that enable high-speed connectivity between coastal markets. Sea Gliders, like I said, are this combination sort of in between a boat and a plane. So they operate from waterways, dock to dock, over water transportation at aircraft speeds up to about 180 miles. And the unique thing about Sea Gliders is that when they fly within a wingspan of the water at all times. So they're staying below the height of sailboat masts, below even the height of a cruise ship. They're flying on this cushion of air that you see birds flying on when they fly over the surface, like when a pelican is gliding on the surface. And because we're letting nature work for us, because we're taking advantage of this aerodynamic phenomenon, we get incredible range and efficiency, which lets us use batteries for long-range transportation today. So we were here last time talking about this quarter-scale prototype we built, and I think I'm most proud as a technology company to say we have moved from the CGI world into the real world. We actually built this thing, we flew it, we proved that it could work. Sea Gliders use hydrofoils to get throughout the harbor. So we are a hydrofoil ferry, wave-tolerant, comfortable, maneuverable, and then once we get through the harbor, we take off onto our wings. It's the first vehicle in history, in aviation or maritime history, that's been able to do this. This has been developed entirely in-house at REGENT because of this electric propulsion system. And then the control when we're flying at these altitudes and riding on that cushion of air is all controlled by software. So it is incredibly safe. It's using the latest in sensor and flight controls technology to accommodate this. So we've proven that. But admittedly, that's a little bit small. That's not going to carry many people. So I'm also excited to share in this audience that a couple weeks ago, we unveiled the full-scale design mock-up. Our full-scale prototype is under development right now. This vehicle has a 65-foot wingspan, 15,000 pounds, can carry 12 passengers and 2 crews. We're building this right now, and we expect to get humans on board next year. So we are already moving on to the full scale now that we've proven out all this technology at the smaller scale. And it's more than just flashy lights and smoke, although that is very important in things like this. But we actually have the engineering behind it as well. So we're already testing our full-scale, full-power propulsion systems. We're using that real-world data to tune our computer models of how the aerodynamics work. We're using those computer models to tune our flight software to ensure that these operations are safe. And all of this is so that we can abstract away all the difficult and dangerous parts of flying an airplane to a software system so that when you get in it with your mariner's license, you drive a Sea Glider like you drive a boat. Left and right, fast and slow, and everything else is controlled by these systems that has this great deal of engineering rigor behind it. And we're actually building it right now. So we have that full-scale mock-up. You can see here our hull For this vessel, it is a vessel. It just happens to fly a few feet over the water. But we're building the hull right now, 55 foot long. You can just barely make out the person there on the upper right-hand corner. This thing is big and it is real. Beyond the technology development and our updates from last time, we've also made tremendous progress on the commercial front. So we also announced recently that the customer who will be taking first delivery of our Sea Glider is Mokulele Airlines, which operates in Hawaii and also operates as Southern Airways Express along the east coast of the United States. This group will be making Sea Gliders the flagship of their fleet. They're already moved people on these commuter and charter and regional routes, and now they get to do it on the same routes with an all-electric vehicle without burden of the pilot shortage, and we can bring that to market with Mokulele Southern Airways by mid-decade. And the reason this is all working, I mean, there's lots of new technologies and lots of electric, regional transportation, eVTOL and all that, but the reason why we're able to move so quickly and why we've gotten so much buy-in to date is because really, relatively, this is pretty simple, right? Sea Gliders integrate into existing transit systems. They have very low infrastructure requirements, and of course, we service that sustainability mandate that any new future transportation system, if we're going to go through all this effort to bring a new mode of transportation to market, it needs to be green. And because of how this is working, we've been able to grow over just the 2.5 years we've been in existence at REGENT. We've been able to grow our customer base and investor base all around the world. We have dozens of Sea Glider customers lined up in 5 continents around the planet. We have customers in the ferry industry, in the airline industry, in the offshore energy industry, providing crew and logistics transfer to offshore oil and wind platforms, in the tourism industry, the maritime patrol, search and rescue, medevac, and we've been able to do this all around the world because of the viability of this platform. But what I really want to talk to today is the next step, right? So we can build the technology, and there's a lot of companies doing that, and then we can certify it safe, and that's hard but super important, and then we can sell it to someone who says, I can make money off of this, and there's a market, and I want to service that market with your cool widget. But then what? And that's what we're focused on at REGENT right now, because we're talking about bringing these vehicles to market, like for real, with passengers on board in the next few years. And that's about building the ecosystem. And that's why we're so excited to be here, because we know there's a lot of ecosystem leaders, especially from Miami, here today. So this takes an operator that raises their hand and says, I'm going to run this Sea Glider on this route with this many passengers per year. And then it takes the local government to say, that's okay, and we support this, and let's get everyone else on board. It takes the regulators to say, yes, this is safe, and I'm not getting paid for this. It is actually safe. It takes the utility providers and the infrastructure developers to say, okay, well, we're going to build docks now. We're going to bring charging down, and we're very fortunate in Miami to leverage the tailwinds on that charging infrastructure already going in place from that path on shore power at Port Miami. Then it takes the environmental advocates, because while we're trying to solve the sustainability problem and reduce emissions, we don't want to create a whole new host of problems with respect to wildlife, with respect to noise. And we need our community leaders, because this is an intrinsic part of our community. These new modes of transportation are joining the multimodal transportation fabric of these communities. And so we need to ensure that it fits in and it solves these needs. So digging in a little deeper on these needs, on the infrastructure requirements and the charger requirements, the great thing about Sea Gliders is that they do not require much by means of new infrastructure. We're not talking about building wholesale new facilities or airports. We're talking about docks. We're talking about maybe some triangular modifications to the docks, and we're talking about chargers, which everything will need. Right? Every new electric infrastructure is going to require chargers. They're already going in place for the shore power of the cruise ships. And the important thing from REGENT is that they don't need to just be ours. We can use the cruise ship chargers, and these Sea Glider chargers that are developed can then be shared in this multimodal concept. We're going to turn our ports and our airports into multimodal sustainable transportation centers that service electric aircraft, that service eVTOL, that service cars, that service electric boats, and oh, by the way, Sea Gliders now is part of that sustainable multimodal future transportation system. So we're here in Miami, and I've been talking very generally, so I sort of want to bring it back to Miami. Like, what could this do here? What does the Sea Glider network look like, and why have we been spending so much time here? Because it is pretty exciting. So with existing battery technology, we can do a 180-mile range. Today from a Miami hub, that looks like routes to Key West and Nassau. It looks like connectors up and down the east coast of Florida, enabling connectivity, enabling commuting in under an hour between places like Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, and Melbourne. And then the cool part is that these systems are all modular. So as battery technology develops, we pop out the old battery, put in the new battery. We can double to triple the range of the system as Elon pays for all that battery technology. And all of a sudden, we can go 500 miles with that same Sea Glider you bought a few years ago. And now we can go throughout the Caribbean. We can go all up and down the coast of Florida to Georgia, South Carolina, and we can start creating these connected multimodal networks. And so to make this a little more real, I have an engineering degree, so I need to put some numbers and a graph behind it. I promise you there's just one in this deck. But if we look at some of the key routes where we could actually make this work with existing battery technology in that 180-mile ring, I'll focus on Key West because I've driven that by car and it's a pain. And I haven't flown it yet, but when you look into it, it takes you still over 3 hours door to door. You got to go to the airport and go through security. You got to go out and taxi. To get there, you're burning 140 pounds of carbon dioxide. I'll say that again, just because it was a little shaking when we did the math on that. To get your butt from Miami to Key West, you burn 140 pounds of carbon dioxide per seat. So this is clearly not scalable because we're talking about 40% of the world's population living in coastal community and burning this sort of stuff whenever they travel. So it needs to be green, it needs to be affordable, and because it's all electric, we can reduce that ticket price from the $200 of an airplane to $40 on this all-electric Sea Glider system, and we can reduce the door-to-door time because we board it like a ferry. We walk down to the dock, we walk on board, and off we go, accelerating at speeds of 180 miles an hour en route to Key West and get there in under 2 hours. So we're getting very close. We're talking about entry to service by mid-decade. We have customers who are lined up ready to operate. We're trying to build these ecosystems, and we're having progress in our key entry to service markets. So we said, why not Miami? What could this look like in Miami? And this is something we're getting started on now. So these are admittedly notional, but we wanted to paint a picture of what this could look like, and we found a parking lot that we've actually been talking with Port Miami about just a few blocks away. What could this look like as part of the 2035 plan to have a Sea Glider terminal right here at Port Miami? Where would we base it? Where would we hydrofoil throughout the harbor? Where would we take off and fly? How would we scale these operations? From today, we want to start small. We want to make this easy. Just a dock, just a single Sea Glider, just a few hundreds to 1,000 passengers a day, and then over a 5-year plan, scale that to become a true regional connector, right? And actually make substantial economic impact in the region, scaling up to 4,000 passengers a day from this terminal. So I'll just take you through a few other details of what this might look like, and this is a parking lot literally just down the road here. We're going to start pretty easy. We're going to start just with buses connecting people to and from Miami International Airport and connecting you out to the islands. We'll grow it in year 3 so that it's not just passenger operations, but we can include cargo there. And then into year 5, recognizing that vision of that multimodal transportation center with 4,000 passengers a day. Now, as I said at the beginning, we've been really fortunate as REGENT has been forming this Miami Nexus to be leveraging and connecting with an incredible ecosystem who is incredibly also forward-leaning on these sustainable mobility technologies, and it's no mistake why CoMotion is here in Miami. So we've been working with the government at the county and city level, with our operators who want to buy these Sea Gliders and operate them here, with the environmental advocates, the infrastructure, the energy providers. REGENT is not the leader in this. We are just one player in this consortium that is focused on this sustainable mobility. And then, of course, the university connections and the venture world and the incubators. You know, we're backed by Founders Fund and Soma Capital based in Miami here. We've been working very closely with Enterprise Florida and other incubation groups to make this technology a reality. So I'll leave you with, you know, REGENT has advanced substantially in the past year. We're super excited about Miami, and we're moving on. While we are very focused and very good at building technology and certifying it safe and selling them all over the world, we're moving on to this next phase because we're only a few years away from operations. We're building ecosystems. Once again, I'm Billy Thalheimer with REGENT. Thank you.